It's time to present Scott DuPont to bring you another episode of Finance Your Movie with tips and strategies to help you get your money to tell your story. It's time!
Another exciting episode today. I'm here with the award-winning James Fox, writer, director, producer of the new thriller coming out in just a day or two called Crypto Shadows. Welcome, James.
Thanks for having us.
And I'm here with Steve Istock from California Pictures, who
Thank you for having us.
helped the ability to see the film here.
Yeah, we're helping James get that film out there in the world. So thank you for having us.
Welcome, Steve. And James,
Thank you.
you're zooming in from LA, and Steve, you're in New York, correct?
New York City, yes. Right now, today, yes.
Excellent. So we got the whole country covered today.
Yes.
So, James, I want to start with you. Our audiences are always interested in how you became a successful filmmaker, and you've got 3 features right now in various stages of pre or post or getting ready to release. But you started out about 15 years ago doing a few shorts, correct?
That's right. Yeah, and I went to film school at the Academy of Art in San Francisco. So, but I really got my start by accidentally landing a lead role in a feature film as an actor.
Oh, that always happens.
Yeah. I actually drove one of my good friends
Awesome.
from high school to her audition and kind of got swept up in the whole audition process. They thought I was there to audition too. And they were like, all right, all the guys are over there, all the girls are over there. And I was like, I have no idea what's happening, but I just went with it because I had to stay there to drive her home anyway. Auditioned, got the part, lost the friend, as it turns out.
I bet.
Yeah. And then acting is the hardest job I've ever had. It was a Vietnam War film, and I've never done. I mean, I played football and ran track, and this was the most running I've ever done. And got to do cool things like jump out of a helicopter, and I just fell in love with the process. So
Wow.
yeah.
Wow, what an interesting story. So after a couple short films, you did the Darkest Matter. You
Yeah.
directed that as well,
Yeah, I
and,
directed
and,
that
and
as well.
produced.
Yep.
So how did the funding of that first feature come about?
So that was kind of an interesting project. We partnered with a children's arts education nonprofit that we were running a summer camp with for a number of years and teaching them filmmaking during the summer. And they came to me and said, hey, if we get you a budget for a feature film, would you shoot a feature with the kids over the course of the summer? And I was like, that's insane. Sure.
Sign me up.
Yeah, and so that's how that came about, and we had to wind up doing some private funding as well, especially when we hit post production, because we had this insane idea of recreating a kind of a Lord of the Flies story on a space station with kids. So yes, we gave our kids spears, and they did wire work, and I mean it was a
Wow.
ton of fun. There's a couple pictures of like 12-year-old kids with a full steady cam, 125 pounds of gear, weighed twice the amount that they did. And it was great. It was so much fun. But yeah, so it wound up being, funded partially by this arts education nonprofit, and then private funding for the rest.
Now, were you involved with reaching out to private individuals, or is this kind of the organization, they kind of took care of everything and just said, here's the money?
It was a little bit of both. So they handled kind of the nonprofit side, and then me and a team of producers kind of handled the reaching out to some of the private investors.
And were those people you knew, or just people on a list?
It was probably 70-30. It was a lot of like reaching out to colleagues and friends and acquaintances that we had as a group. And then they, if they couldn't help us, we'd ask them if they knew anybody who else we could call, and it kind of that progressive warm lead that slowly degrades into cold calling.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, it was just persistence. And to answer your question in a word, I think that the way you become a successful filmmaker is persistence. It's a tough gig.
Yes.
It's got lots of built-in gates and roadblocks, and you just got to beat your head against that brick wall until it caves.
So Steve, coming from California Pictures, we'll get into that just a minute. You deal with all kinds of filmmakers who are successful
Yes.
enough to partner with you. Let's drill down on that persistence a little bit, that quality.
Yes. I mean, it is like James said, and that's what I remember very well. James and I, our first conversation that Jennifer set up, James, we had one of those conversations for about 40 minutes, then we didn't talk for several months, but I already knew immediately this was an insightful, inquisitive, really intelligent filmmaker. It was James Fox. And I've been privileged. I grew up in Detroit. I was a ski instructor, worked in metal stamping plants, always worked with my hands. Then I was a banker, finance manager for Merrill Lynch for years throughout, before, during, and after 9/11. Beverly Hills finance manager. And then I founded California Pictures 15 years ago. And the truly single most ingredient that makes it work is persistence. A lot of people are talented, they have zero follow through. And, we've sold indies and acquired films from all 6 continents. I'm thrilled about, because we've never taken stimulus money. We have no bank UCC filing. We have no line of credit because I always wanted to croak. If I ever died, these films immediately go to the filmmakers, and they will. As you know, 90% of Hollywood companies are right now not like that. And we're having
Yeah.
severe cash flow problems. So when I was just running down from the rooftop, actually, it sounds very dramatic, but it was true. I'm meeting with the writer on a brand new project where he's trying to put together a financer similar to James. Good, real good guy. He's done a lot of good things in his life, and now he's taking a slight different career path. So we were discussing the realities of finance. $5 million movie that he gets 2.25% or 2.5% as a writer, out of the gate. I said, I can totally understand that. One of his early investors now wants to see some breakdowns from me. What do you think we could do in Europe? What do you think you could do in Asia? And then can we provide some sort of, again, a guarantee? We've started to provide guarantees now after 15 years, just like I used to require them from bank clients always.
Wow.
Because I
So
might have,
you're doing
well, I might
MGs
have, I
yourself.
might have banked your show. And I might have said, look, I don't care. I do care, but I don't care so much about your individual choices personally. That's your business, about how you structure your business, how you run, whether it's an S Corp, C Corp, whether you take personal tax treatment, corporate tax treatment, offshore tax treatment, legitimately. This is when I was a finance manager at Merrill. Same thing. I tell people, look, I'm not your IRS person. In fact, a lot of the federal government, that's a whole other subject, is screwed up right now. But what we desperately need, and I was down at a major New York company that I'll be glad to announce in 2 weeks when I come back, if what happens, I think will happen, we'll be partners with them, and then we'll be able to open up a New York office. And, California Pictures will. And so this spurs the growth and the direct to consumer business I want to do big time. I had already spoken to James about this, about taking his film. We're fortunate. And I wanted to thank Lisa Romanoff from Vision Films and others, Mark,
Yes,
Andrea for
Lisa.
setting this up. Andrea's great. Mark Schumann is great. Lisa's wonderful. She's one of those legends in the business, 30 years.
Yeah.
She's a tougher
With
lady, but she
integrity. With integrity.
she's phenomenal. I mean, Lisa's one of those ladies. She says she will do it. She will do it. I can count. I'm going to give you 10 fingers. James is one of them. No, I'm exaggerating a bit, but I'll say 10 buyers, distributors that you really can count on. The sad thing is, it's like my grandfather said, that 1,000-yard stare is back. Post COVID, the damage to the kids. Half of the people don't know what direction to take. And just
Yeah.
meeting with this company, big one in New York just this morning, he says half the studio orders are off.
Yeah.
Because they can't predict what they're doing now, and they're waiting until July on some of this. This
Well,
is like when the auto
luckily for
company,
James, he was
well, it's just like,
smart.
yeah, go ahead, please. But yeah,
Luckily
so
enough for
thank you
James,
again for
he
being
was
here, though.
smart enough not to do a $5 or $10 million picture. And
At least not yet.
what
Yeah.
exactly was your budget on Crypto Shadows, the new thriller?
Our budget was around 200,000 when we're all said and done. Yeah.
Okay, so pretty common budget in the indie world, and if you're really, really smart and savvy, you can make a very good-looking picture
Oh, yes.
with that. How did the financing on that come together?
So it was all private investors, and it was a lot of reaching out to people that we knew, people that we had relationships with, business partners from our past, and it was, and a function of trying to keep our costs low, right? So it was like just everything that we could, like we found as many free locations as we could. We kept our shooting schedule to 9 days for principal cinematography.
Wow, that's tight.
So we had one pickup day for our stunt day, basically. So it was just keeping everything very, 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 very tight, and that's how we were able to really kind of keep it low.
Like I said, the easiest dollar to raise is the dollar you don't spend
That's right.
in
That's right.
development. You figure out a way to get those free locations, like you said. Any investors from the Darkest Matter or any of your previous projects come in on this one?
Actually, yeah. Our first money in investor was one of the previous investors from the Darkest Matter. So that was really cool to like, even after so long, they were like, yeah, absolutely, let's do this. So
I love that. Well, that speaks a lot about your character, and congratulations on getting that done.
thank you.
Now, how did you connect with Lisa and or Steve? How did California Pictures come into the mix?
So we started reaching out. We produced a trailer while we were shooting. Actually, we were editing the trailer as we were laying off film from the camera. And so as soon as we wrapped the film, we kind of had a trailer ready to go. We kind of did that backwards finance trailer, right, where we were, let's send it out and see what kind of interest we can get. And we sent it out. We kind of developed a list, me and all the producers, of kind of our favorites of how we wanted to reach out or who we wanted to reach out to. And one of the producers was like, I've got one in my back pocket that I really like. I've talked to them before. I want you to talk to them. And it was one of two that they had me like reach out and talk to directly. And that was our initial conversation with Steven. So and I got off the phone and I called all the producers. I was like, hey, I really like California Pictures. I don't know anything about the deals or anything yet. That's all your guys' business. I'm still in the edit room. But I really like the way they do business. I really like Steven. I really like Jennifer. I hadn't met Monique yet, but everybody there is just phenomenal. So, and the thing that I really liked was I felt the passion for the industry that I have, right? Or more so even. Steven is even more so than me. All the money stuff scares me because I'm a director and writer first and foremost. But I got off the phone and I was pumped. I was jazzed. I was ready for the next one when I got off the call. So, and that's not normally the way that conversation goes with the distributors. It normally feels like I've just been kicked in the teeth by a horse, right?
Yeah.
So to get off the phone and have that kind of like, I don't know, just good vibe. I was like, yeah, this is the one. I knew right away. We did our due diligence and we talked to maybe a dozen distributors that had a very, very high level of interest. But I got off every one and would just cross it off. It's like, nope.
So quick question for you, and then I'm going to pivot to Steve.
Yeah.
You had the film in the can, but you didn't have the full edit, color correction, music, anything like that. So were you able to show a rough cut or just the trailer?
We just showed the trailer, and then we quickly got to a rough cut. But then after the rough cut, it really slowed down, and a lot of that was just availability and kind of a factor of the low budget. We're kind of waiting for things to kind of develop. So especially when you started getting into like the QCs and trying to make all of those changes, it was an interesting process. But it was just the trailer. The trailer was a really, really, it was a good trailer. I liked it quite a lot.
Okay, so Steve, you look at films in this stage sometimes because obviously this happened. Tell us what happened and how the deal was put together.
Well, it's like I said, I had a strong feeling about James too, and what we have seen, and even from one of the films I produced years ago, with what happens, there's a lot that happens between production. Like James, how many pages did you shoot? It was 9+1. How many shooting pages do you have? Was it like 80
per day?
No, just total. What was your total shooting page budget? Or it was like 80 something, right? Probably.
Yeah.
78, 80.
So over 10 pages a day.
day.
Yeah.
You were like, no, he was like me. I mean, it's admirable. We did 9 pages on Scavengers. We had 10 shooting days, 93 script pages. It's crazy. Most people go, what are you doing? But you're doing similar budget James did, and it worked. And so I figured, what I liked about James immediately, and I'll tell you, Scott, it was that heartbeat of a man who had put his own time and effort. We were talking about the ranch shooting James and everything, but what we were talking about was how do we practically tell stories that people can enjoy worldwide. And I remember, it was different things too, but we shared that, I think, instantly. And that's what I find. That's why I myself love the indie business, Scott, because, I was a studio banker. I came from Detroit, but I learned more in my metal stamping jobs and being a ski instructor and food service than I learned in half the time we wasted with the bozos in the studio film business, because half of them were derivatives that are now not even in the business anymore. you know, and we're constantly fighting that with people with their veracity, with residuals for sure, and now all the corporate politics, you know, these mergers, which will not be helpful. However, again, what we're doing and the smart companies are doing, we're pivoting immediately. We're just going to become full distributors. So what I knew immediately was when James was ready, and we don't care. I mean, we have a standing policy. We will screen every good film it can. And we've screened about 50 films, 54 now, I believe, in our company's history at Cannes, done 5 all-night parties. We strongly use print media, Screen Magazine, Hollywood Reporter, and Ecran, a French business publication. I know their publishers now, father and son. They're getting us into a lot of the French society that was closed to me for 10 years. You know, James was at Cannes. He saw that whole silly dance. And what I
Yeah.
call, you know, Cannes is like a trade show mixed with a little bit of, you know, I don't know what you want to call it, James. Like, you know, it's a little like that Beatles album. I'm forgetting Sergeant Pepper's. You know what I mean? There's people that are on equivalent of steroids. You know, intellectually, mentally.
Yeah.
What's great about it is you have the best of the world. I love
Yeah.
that place. So,
So
anyways,
question for
please
you,
go
Steve.
ahead. Yeah,
If anyone in our audience is listening, they have a film at this stage. Did you, in
sure.
James's case, or do you ever help with some of the final post and marketing money, or is that
Yes.
always the okay? So that
No,
that's an
we do what we call last in, first out on that because you know
okay.
some people take their fees first, some people just a gross expense in and out. What we try to really do is we want long-term business.
So
You know, I'm
you're
not
being
looking to make
helpful
six.
to the filmmaker if they need it.
Absolutely. Well, we've made several films. I've made 6 myself, a documentary, a short, you know, and just when I even spoke at Santa Clarita, what I was glad to see was people are passionate about this business. And when we speak the real truth, people just, you know, they eat that up like catnip. Because it's apparently, James, you know, it is quite a rare commodity in this business. You know, half the people are derivatives, and the other quarter of the other half don't understand the finance of the business. I don't
Yeah,
expect
yeah,
people to. I didn't know it. Everything I learned by doing with our company. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like just doing it in my own first couple of movies. That's what made me sell internationally. I realized how bad a lot of people were doing it, not because they meant to do it, but it was the same thing I saw as banking. 80% of people in the bank jobs, just like the movie Office Space, they just wanted to do a good enough job not to get fired. And to basically the highlight of the day was, hey, Scott, where are we going to lunch? Or can we go to
yeah.
happy hour at 4? Or
Yeah,
is
clock
Joey
out
going
at
to find
four or
us and
five
fire
o'clock.
us? Yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead. Yeah, yeah.
So
I think the thing that I really
But I
like,
want to
I
thank
just
James
want,
though. Excellent film, and I'm looking
oh,
for
thank
more
you.
that I know you can do in the future. Yeah,
Thank you.
I'm
Thank you.
thrilled.
Yeah.
I'm thrilled
I
to help.
think
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
I think that the thing that I really have enjoyed with California Pictures is everything they say they're going to do, they do, and then some. Like we haven't been disappointed in anything, and every time I've had a conversation with a distributor, it's been a lot of talk and then not a lot of action. And a lot of the times I'm playing catch up on the calls with everything that California Pictures is doing. They're like, we did this, we did this, we did this, we did this. You know, how many times do I get on the phone with you, Steve, and you're like, I got good news for you? It's like half the calls start with that comment,
Yeah.
right? And that is just not the experience that I've had outside. So, you know, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of
Well,
Steven and
thank you.
Monique and Jennifer
Yeah.
and California Pictures in general. They do great stuff, and they're working hard for the filmmakers, which
it's a
you know,
rarity. It's a rarity.
it's a rarity.
Because
Yeah, it's
they're
so great.
usually just all about trying to squeeze as much money they can, and the filmmaker's kind of second priority.
Well,
Exactly.
he's just mentioning like 4 of our internal partners. I mean, you know, they're the ladies. I mean, especially Monique, Jennifer, and Robbie, and Augie, who's been another guy with us for years. I mean, no, you cannot find these people. They're great, wonderful people. So yeah, thank you, James. Though.
So
Yeah,
James,
and it's like your Colleen. It's like your Colleen. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
question for you, kind of parting words of advice. Since you had to make all these phone calls and literally you just got to do meetings, get them on the phone, what advice would you give to indie filmmakers out there? Maybe they're trying to raise 100 or 200K for their first film, or maybe it's their second film and they're stuck trying to raise 500,000, 750. What are some words of advice through these movies you've learned?
I think that the biggest thing for me is you know, aim high, but make the movie that you can make, and don't be scared to leverage your contacts. You know, we were able to secure a lot of really talented actors for cheap or deferred or you know whatever. Lots of really cool, interesting ways to get them involved in the project by leveraging our personal relationships and like saying, "Hey, we're shooting a movie. I'd love for you to be in it." I mean, the lead actor in our film, I got connected to. I had seen her in. I'm a judge for several film festivals, and I had seen her in projects I was like, oh, I'm familiar with her work. She's great. But I reached out to her and I was just like, on Facebook. She had no idea who I was. I just reached out to her on Facebook. I was like, hey, I'm thinking about doing a movie, you know, and I figured it was 50-50. She's going to think I'm a creep and block me, or she might be interested. And it turns out Michaela was interested, and it wound up being great. And we're good friends now. So but you know, the main thing is just be persistent, have integrity, you know. I think on the flip side, a lot of filmmakers try to just kind of BS their way through the money talks, and that's not smart. You know, like people recognize that right away. So have integrity, try to get your budget as low as you can so that it makes sense. And because it's always going to balloon, like our costs ballooned significantly in post-production. So, you know, do good planning, good producing, and do what you can to keep that number down so that it makes sense for distributors.
So Steve, same question from you. Put your producer hat on here, since you've done 6 films yourself.
Yes.
What are some of the tips or advice you give for people out there in the trenches looking for private equity, you know, looking for investors?
Well, it's like I said, James, what I love is the trait of entrepreneurs anywhere in the world and this across languages is that they're willing to take a bunch of no's to get a yes. You know, they do more than send emails. They call people, they're willing to look foolish
Can you
once in a
repeat
while.
that last thing again?
I was saying they're willing to look foolish. They do more than just send emails, you know, because they have to call people. You've got to get to know people. What I say to people, please now, because I'm an older man and I've been doing this for a while, but even more as a project banker, please, before you spend your money, let us talk. Because I was one of the best in the country as a banker, as a resource allocation finance man. You know what I mean? And so in film, what we're working a lot with now is buyers that can't commit. And so one of the issues is we're going to be going from business to business to business to business and business to consumer now, expanding our reach to certain individuals. Because when I meet people around the country, $5, $7, $12, people are thrilled. You can see the fat has been winnowed to the bone on a lot of the digital things. So we need to get back to live theaters, live events, trade shows. You know, if you're doing a movie that's, you know, let's use those attributes that you have, you know, but you really, like James said, you got to be sensible. You know, you can't expect to do Avatar out of the gate. I was privileged enough. I actually, after a few years, was one of Mr. Cameron's bankers. You know,
Oh,
never
wow.
worked with
Wow.
him. I worked with several of his, you know, his people. That's the way that
Yeah.
is at that level. But it was amazing, you know, because again, with the way that they were able to think like a year ahead. A lot of the indie filmmakers, you know, and same with me. I've been a 26 years SAG member. I tell people, go learn the discipline. You know, I was a kid from Detroit. I didn't have any Hollywood pedigree. People still laugh once in a while at me. California Pictures, that's real original. And I was like, no, just like the band Boston, I admired people that had the balls to go do something, like James Fox, because people will take things just like I did when I made Scavengers and Warriors Hard, our 2 better movies, you know, indie movies. People, you know, all along told me not to do it. When I started our company and started sales, Steve, you can't do it. How do you compete the majors? And I said, I'm not. I'm generally not, but I love the international business. So what I say to people, please let me help triage your project, is a medical term, good, bad, or ugly. Has the train crashed? Like we've all had old boyfriends and girlfriends that may have gone astray or away. You know, the same thing. A lot of the projects, like James says, costs can balloon fast. You have to look at 10, 20, 50, and 100% contingencies. You have to expect that building could get washed away, not just I lose my location. What happens with all my stuff, all my gear I had stored? Oops. What do
Got
I
to think
tell
of all
Otto
that.
Niemer? You know, a lot of this is insured, and a lot of this is you can mitigate the risk. You know, and then you get the biggest fun is the people. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's what you want to enjoy. So I tell people whether you're in serious post or you're finished film, call us, come see us. You know, we're www.calpictures.com. Please, I answer my own phone. You know, Robbie, Jennifer, and Monique do too. Let us help. You know, because and whether we can help you or not. You know, if it's A24 quality, they're going to theatrically release it. We know this, but most people don't like focusing on the 44 world territories, and we do. We're very good internationally. So, in addition to, so again, I just wanted to thank you for having us. And if you have more questions, please let us know.
Yeah. James Fox, thank you so much for coming on. Go see Crypto Shadows, this new thriller. That is out January 16th, correct?
Yes, yes, that's
So if you're
correct.
listening to this
Yep.
podcast now, go rent it. And where can people check it out?
So they're going to see it on several places immediately digitally. And then what I want them to do is check back with us in February, and we're going to give a few places we're going to be able to show it live. Okay. Or, you know, James and I are going to be talking about that shortly. I'll call you tomorrow, James.
Okay.
when I get
Excellent.
my other phone to work. And yeah, I'll call you from here before I go to Detroit Saturday. All right.
So
No,
check
but
out
again, thank you, Scott. Yeah.
all your
Yeah.
streaming platforms, and then you can also go to
Correct. Yeah. No, we're thrilled to
calpictures.com.
have Vision. Lisa's the leader in what's called a lot of the ad video on demand, the ad supported
Yeah,
video on
AVOD.
demand, AVOD, yes. And so, but Lisa's just great in that. She has a whole circuit of people. Mark and Andrea will be getting the news out too. And so January 16th. Oh yeah. But stay tuned. We'll have some news in just a couple of days.
Excellent. And then James, what's the best place people can follow you on social media or contact you?
The best place is thejamesfox.com. That's where they can check out all my film projects, as well as all of my author novel projects as well.
Awesome. Steve, Istock, James Fox, thank you so much. Go check out Crypto Shadows. Thank you both for being on the show.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. And remember, it's time!
There's never been a better time to make your own indie film. And if you have a dream project you're excited about and 100% committed to getting it funded, go to financeyourmovie.com and click on the green telephone button. You'll see our calendar, and if you find an open spot, grab it. You'll get a one-on-one call with me or one of my partners. It will be the best hour you've ever spent getting clarity and strategy towards financing your movie. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next week.